If you've been eating high protein in a calorie deficit, working out consistently, but your skin keeps breaking out or looking inflamed, just dull, or not reflecting how healthy you're living, this video is gonna explain exactly why this might be actually because of what you're doing and not in spite of it. 2 years ago, I was in the exact same place. I was really focused on changing my body composition, aka losing fat and toning up, and I did all the things that would get impatient little me there as quickly as possible. I worked out 5 to 6 times a week. I was eating high protein, low carb, because I had to stay in a calorie deficit and I needed my calorie window for the protein. And on paper, it looked like a healthy lifestyle. But my skin was getting worse and worse. I had more breakouts, more redness, and my face looked puffy and just not very healthy. And it took me a while to connect the dots because nobody was talking about this side of doing all the right things. What I didn't realize then, but what I know now as a nutritionist and as a human who learns from her mistakes, is that when we push our body too hard, eat too little or too little of the right things, or drop our body fat percentage too quickly, that can mess up our hormone health. And our skin is one of the first places hormone imbalance shows up. So in this video, I'm gonna break down how eating less or eating less of certain foods can affect your hormones and your skin, especially when combined with working out a lot, and how it can lead your skin to both age faster and also to break out more, and what science says you should do about it. But before we get into it, there's one thing that I want to mention that's been genuinely helping my skin while I've been working on the internal stuff, and that is red light therapy. I've been using the FAQ 202 LED mask by FOREO, who are very kindly sponsoring today's video, for a good while now, and it's become a regular part of my evening routine. Red light therapy has been clinically shown to help with things like collagen production, improving skin elasticity, and also with reducing inflammation, which is actually a huge part of why hormonal and diet-related skin issues happen in the first place. But what's especially awesome about this mask is that it not only uses red light, but it also has 7 other wavelengths, including blue light, which has been clinically proven to target acne and inflammation. So it covers both the aging and the breakout side. Also, it's wireless, which is awesome because I usually like to wear it while I'm cleaning up or, doing my typical evening routine. It's lightweight and it's made from flexible silicone, so it fits basically any face shape. If you want to try it out, use my code and the link in my description to get a discount both of the FAQ 202 and almost all other FOREO products, because they also have really amazing skincare products. Thank you so much to FOREO for sponsoring today's video. And now let's talk about what's actually going on with your skin. So there are basically 2 categories of how we do not want our skin to look like. On one side, we have inflammation, acne, redness, puffiness, and on the other, we have dullness, skin that looks tired, not very plump or youthful, and sometimes or often you kind of find yourself on both sides at once. I definitely did. And it's actually not unlikely when you're dieting, aka eating in a significant calorie deficit, choosing healthier food alternatives like some sorts of low-fat yogurt, for example, or protein bars, maybe cutting carbs, cutting fats, because you need most of your calories for your protein, and then also obviously you're exercising a lot. Now, some of these things, especially when you overdo them, can significantly mess with your hormone health. And there are specifically 2 hormones that tend to suffer the most when how much, what, and when you eat is suboptimal, namely estrogen and cortisol. And these 2 hormones can significantly impact how your skin looks, but in completely different ways. Because low estrogen can make your skin look kind of old and dull, and high cortisol can increase skin inflammation and increase things like acne or redness or puffiness. So estrogen is essential for collagen production and skin hydration. But when you're under eating, when energy availability is low, your body downregulates estrogen production, because right now is not the best time for reproduction because it doesn't have enough energy, aka calories, available for, getting pregnant. And less estrogen means less collagen, and less collagen means that your skin can look more dull, less youthful, less plump, drier, maybe more wrinkly. You've probably noticed this before. If you've seen a woman lose weight, her skin kind of often, sometimes looks older than before. And yes, part of that is obviously just fat going away from the face, but not only, because even if the volume goes down, you can still have, even complexions, get smooth skin, but not if your collagen production is too low. And that's definitely what happened to me, because my skin started to look older very fast. And now when I rebalanced my hormones, I keep getting comments on how young my skin looks. And yes, it's probably not only because of the estrogen production, but I'm very sure that it's made a big difference. So you do need enough estrogen for a young, plump looking skin. However, you might have also heard that too much estrogen can increase oil production and acne. So you would think that if you're low in estrogen, at least you wouldn't have the acne problem. But unfortunately, when you're dieting too hard, estrogen is not the only thing that's being affected, but also cortisol, which is, I bet, a hormone that you have heard about. Now, before I talk about cortisol, I do want to emphasize that cortisol is not the enemy. We do need cortisol, but we also do not need too much of it. As with every hormone, we need the right balance. But if you are dieting hard, if you're eating in a deficit, if you're working out a lot, if you're probably also eating low carb, maybe even low fat, and then maybe also even have mental stress or not sleeping enough, not recovering enough, not taking enough rest days from working out, that is putting a lot of stress on your body. And when your body is under stress, it produces more cortisol, which is okay if it's just for a certain amount of time. For example, while working out, your cortisol rises. That's a healthy amount, or a healthy effect of exercising. If then after working out, your body has enough time and energy to balance cortisol down again, aka reducing stress and adapting to the stress. But it cannot do that if, for example, you don't fuel it enough, because not fueling your body enough also increases cortisol, which means your cortisol stays up here. And if your cortisol stays up here for too long, that can cause inflammation. Also, not only, but also in your skin, on your skin, aka redness, acne, puffiness. And this is definitely something that happened to me. My skin around this area got so red, but now no redness. I got pimples all over my face. I mean, I still struggle sometimes with breakouts because I'm still in the end process, I hope, of rebalancing my hormones. But the biggest effect of the cortisol thing that I noticed was puffiness. Even when I was my leanest, so there was no fat in my face, at some point my face looked really not healthy. It was puffy, it was swollen, it was a sign that something was really, really off. And I was hydrating enough, I was getting enough electrolytes, it was nothing like that. So I'm thinking that at least it was connected to chronically elevated cortisol levels. Now, dieting or not eating enough can not only affect your hormone health, but it can also lead to nutrient deficiencies, because if you don't eat sufficient amounts of food, it's harder to get sufficient amounts of the nutrients that would be in that food. Both macronutrients, including carbs and fats, and also micronutrients, of which some are also essential for healthy looking skin. Now, obviously, you need to drink enough water. You know that, but probably when you're dieting, you're drinking enough water because water fills up your stomach, so your skin is going to be happy. You also need enough fats. You might have heard of this one before as well, because your skin barrier needs enough dietary fats in order to function correctly. And also, you need to eat enough fats for healthy hormones, because fats are essential for hormones to be alive, basically. But when you cut fats too low, your skin can suffer. It can look drier, more dull, and also it can get more inflamed. And this includes especially omega-3 fatty acids, because those are very anti-inflammatory. But when you cut out, a lot of fats to save calories, it's also likely that you're missing out on getting enough omega-3s. Now, next to dietary fats, there's one micronutrient that is perhaps one of the most important, especially when acne is your problem, and that is zinc. And low zinc levels are actually very common when you're not eating enough, and especially if you're on top of that working out a lot, because zinc is also lost when you sweat. So it's even more important to get enough zinc through your diet. Why? Because zinc is needed to regulate sebum and fight bacteria. So if you're deficient in zinc, acne is a lot more likely to show up. Next to zinc, you also need enough vitamin A, which you might also know as retinol, because vitamin A is essential for skin turnover. So first you need to eat foods that are rich enough in vitamin A, which includes starchy vegetables like carrots, for example, which many people also try to cut because, they're so high in carbs. But also you need fat in order to absorb the vitamin A from the foods that you eat. So again, if you cut fat too low, it's harder to absorb all the vitamin A that you're eating, if you're even eating enough vitamin A. Vitamin E is also important for skin health, and this is also a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning you need to be eating fats along with the vitamin E in order for your body to absorb it. Vitamin C is also crucial for collagen production, for example, but I'm not going into depth there because I'm guessing that you're eating enough vitamin C because lemon water and, all the low-calorie vegetables and fruits, many of them have vitamin C. But vitamin C is also crucial here. So one problem is not getting enough of the foods or the nutrients that your body needs in order to have healthy skin, to support healthy skin. But there are also certain foods that you're probably eating more of when you're dieting, which you should maybe not eat so much of if you want good looking skin, healthy looking skin. Number one, protein bars. You hear it all the time, you need protein, and obviously I'm an advocate of that. You do need enough protein. Always, but especially if you want to get lean. However, protein bars are, I would say 99% of them are bullshit, because there's so many unnecessary things in there. Either there's sugar, even in the natural ones, by the way. If they're sweetened with honey or rice syrup or even dates, it's still a lot of sugar. And too much sugar, depending on how you eat it, yes, but too much sugar might increase inflammation, and inflammation might lead to things like acne. But especially the ones that are very low calorie, the protein bars sweetened with, for example, sorbitol, maltitol, all these sugar alcohols that are very low or don't have any calories at all, or all the sweeteners that are low calorie or no calorie. These can be very harmful to your gut microbiome. And yes, the research is still controversial about this, but in my humble opinion, it's at least not unlikely that it can harm your gut microbiome. And your gut microbiome is perhaps the most important place in your body that you want to take care of if you want to reduce inflammation in your whole body, but also in your skin. Similarly, if you need protein powder in order to hit your protein goal, and your protein powder is whey, that can also worsen your acne. Now, dairy and its effect on inflammation in your body is also a bit controversial. There are certain dairy products that have been shown that are not increasing inflammation, which includes, for example, yogurt and most cheeses. But whey particularly has been linked to increased acne, at least in some individuals. So it might be trying out, if you're consuming a lot of whey, to cutting it out and to see if it makes any difference. So it's definitely a possibility that if you're eating a lot of whey products, whether that's protein powder or protein bars, that is increasing the acne on your skin. So now that you understand what's going wrong and why, let's talk about what you should do instead to make sure that your skin looks happy and glowy, even if you're trying to get fit. Okay, so first, do not eat too little. Yes, in order to lose fat or weight, you need to be in a caloric deficit. This is math. However, this deficit cannot be too big for so many reasons, including for having a healthy looking skin. So what is a good deficit? It depends a bit on your situation. In general, the more you work out, the higher the stress you're under, both, in terms of working out, but also if you're sleep deprived a lot, if you're under a lot of mental stress, the smaller your calorie deficit should be, because the higher the deficit, the more cortisol. And if the other areas of your life is shooting up your cortisol as well, your cortisol is going crazy. So try to listen to your body, to your own intuition if possible. Overall, research suggests to not have a deficit bigger than 500, although this is for most women at least too big already. So I personally suggest to have a deficit of maximum 200 to 300, even better, even smaller than that. Yes, you need to be patient, but it's worth it. Believe you me. Now, that is the most important part. But not only do you need enough calories overall, also you need enough fats for two reasons. First, fats are essential for hormone health. Literally, hormones cannot function at all without eating enough fats. Second, your skin barrier is pretty literally, I'm not a derm, but I think it's literally made from fatty acids. So you really directly need fats for your skin barrier to work and to lock in moisture and to not look dry and dull. And then you also need the fats in order to absorb certain nutrients, especially vitamin E and vitamin A, which are also essential for skin health. So do not fear fats. For the average woman, at least half a gram of fat per kilo of body weight. A lot better is around 1 gram of dietary fat per kilo of body weight. So for example, if you're a 60 kilo person, that means 60 grams of fat per day. Number 2, eat enough carbs. Carbs are not the enemy, especially if you work out. Going low carb for too long can significantly increase your cortisol levels, especially for us women. We need carbs. What does that mean exactly? Rule of thumb, minimum 120 grams of carbs. You don't need to track. But if you are tracking and you're going crazy about the carb content of your foods, please don't. Number 3, eat regularly, aka do not skip meals, especially not breakfast. You might have heard of this by now, that for us women it is important for our hormone health, because cortisol, to eat soon after waking up and to not do intermittent fasting like past me did in the morning. First, because eating regularly helps with having a stable blood sugar, which again can help reduce inflammation in your body. And second, if you don't eat for too long, again, that means stress for your body, which can keep your cortisol levels elevated for too long. Number 4, eat enough zinc, vitamin E and vitamin A. The best sources for zinc are red meats, shellfish, pumpkin seeds and legumes. And also don't fear starchy vegetables like carrots or sweet potatoes, because they are basically nature's retinol, if you want to put it like that. Derms, please don't stitch me for simplifying. And number 5, don't overtrain. Rest days are at least as important as working out. And if you want to train 5-6 times a week, no 7 times, please, you need at least 1 rest day. Okay, but adapt your nutrition and your other habits around it, meaning sleep a lot, sleep well, and eat enough. Even more important if you work out a lot. Again, because of energy availability. Now, next to having healthy hormones and eating enough, there are a couple of things that you can do to have healthy and plump skin. That is not necessarily a 12-step skincare routine. In this video right here, I share what I do to have healthy and plump skin, including skincare, but also things like the right nutrition and other habits. So make sure to check that out as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.